What if a tiny 1% rate change quietly raised your taxes, your mortgage rate, and your cost of living without you even noticing at first? Japan's debt clock now sits around 1,342 trillion yen, roughly $8.6 to $8.7 trillion depending on the exchange rate. For years, ultra-low interest rates made that massive number feel stable, but now rates are rising. And even a 1% shift can add trillions of yen in extra interest over time. This video breaks down how that happens, why rollover makes the impact grow year after year, and what it really means for Japan's financial future, because this is not about panic. It is about how small rate changes turn into big budget consequences, and why that shift could affect everything from government spending to the economy around you. The $8.7 trillion headline grabs attention, but what does it actually measure? Japan's Ministry of Finance reports central government debt at 1,342.2 trillion yen as of December 31st, 2025, converted at roughly 155 yen per dollar. That equals about $8.6 trillion. That is the stock. Globally, economists often use a broader measure, public debt as a percentage of GDP. On that scale, Japan's gross public debt sits around 200% of GDP. That means Japan owes about twice what it produces in a year. This has been true for a long time. So why does 1% suddenly matter? For nearly a decade, Japan lived in a world of near zero interest rates. The Bank of Japan introduced negative rates in 2016. Then came yield curve control. The goal was simple: keep borrowing costs extremely low, and it worked. For years, Japan financed huge debt at almost no cost. But in 2024, the central bank ended negative rates. By late 2025, policy rates had climbed toward 0.75%, and 10-year bond yields moved above 2%. That is a structural shift. And that shift activates the rollover machine. Debt does not reset all at once. Japan's average bond maturity is roughly 9.5 years, so only a portion of the debt refinances each year. And at first, higher rates barely move total interest costs. But each year, more low-rate bonds mature. They get replaced with higher-rate bonds. That is rollover. And rollover compounds. The Ministry of Finance shows that a plus 1% rate increase raises debt service by around 0.9 trillion yen in the first year, about 2.1 trillion yen in year 2, nearly 3.7 trillion yen in year 3. Notice how it accelerates. The first year feels manageable. The third year feels noticeable. The fifth year begins to reshape the budget. Now stretch the timeline further. Under modeled assumptions in the research document, a permanent plus 1% rise in refinancing rates could mean about 1.4 trillion yen extra interest in year 1, roughly 7 trillion yen extra by year 5, over 12 trillion yen extra by year 10. That equals roughly 1.5% of GDP by year 10. This is not a crisis spike, it is a gradual climb, but when debt exceeds 1,300 trillion yen, small percentages turn into large absolute numbers. Japan already faces long-term structural pressures. Nearly 30% of the population is over age 65. Healthcare spending rises, pension costs grow, long-term care expands. These are predictable expenses. Now add rising interest payments on top. If interest costs climb by 7 to 12 trillion yen over time, something must adjust. Taxes may rise, spending may be reduced, growth must accelerate, or borrowing increases further, and more borrowing feeds the interest cycle. This is why 1% matters. It shifts the entire fiscal equation. There is another layer. When rates rise, the Bank of Japan pays more interest on reserves held by banks, but many bonds purchased during years of stimulus carry very low coupons. That gap can reduce central bank profits. When central bank profits fall, less money flows back to the government, so normalization does not just affect bond auctions, it affects the consolidated public balance sheet. Not necessarily. Most Japanese government debt is held domestically. Japan also has a strong net international investment position. Its financial system remains broadly stable under stress scenarios. This is not about collapse. It is about sensitivity. When debt equals twice GDP, small rate moves create large mechanical effects. When rates normalize, governments generally have three levers: fiscal discipline, stabilize deficits, and anchor debt, debt engineering, extend maturities, and smooth refinancing. Growth strategy: increase nominal GDP faster than interest rates. If growth stays above interest costs, debt ratios can stabilize. But if rates rise faster than growth, pressure builds. That balance determines whether debt shrinks slowly or drifts higher. 1% sounds small, but on 1,342 trillion yen, 1% is not small. In year 1, it looks manageable. By year 5, it reshapes the deficit. By year 10, it becomes structural. Japan's debt clock is not exploding overnight, but the era of effortless borrowing is ending. And once rollover begins, the clock does not slow down. It compounds. The number keeps ticking.